in 18 boats, I believe there's only 4 that I bought brand new.
Time for the Angler Within podcast with Roy Bilby.
Okay, so we did a trip on the river that you now live on. I got to tell you, I'm supposed to be the fisherman here on this podcast. I live in the middle of the woods. You were in a house on a lake and moved to a house on a river. Both places that I like to fish. And, how is it you keep ending up on the water? And I bought property that is the one piece of property on this whole ridge line. I'm the one guy who doesn't have property suitable to put in a pond. And everybody else has got a pond. And that's what I wanted to do here. And I can't because of the way it perks. So
I don't know.
You end up on the water, and but living in the woods is okay. I can walk right out my back door and be in the turkey woods, the squirrel woods, the deer woods.
Of course.
And that's the trade-off. And I do that too. So
no, I just happened to luck out. Roy, I gave someone my number in November for this place, just in case. Figured I would never hear from them. Yeah, just in case.
Yeah.
And they reached out to me in July. And it's furnished. So my moving has been so far not very stressful because I got to come into a place that already had a bed, furniture, ready to go. All my heavy stuff still at the other place. The fishing out here, I will say this though, I got spoiled on the lake because that's a special place, and there are some.
Yes, you did. It's a special lake.
That's a really nice fishery by comparison.
Then you got a reality check because the river you're on is a tremendous fishery too, but it took me a while to unlock it.
I have one word.
Figure it out.
I have one word.
That's what you ran into.
I have one word for coming down here, and that is humbled. I was humbled.
That's a good word.
So I called you and I said, "What do I do?" And you said, "I'll come fish it with you." And you did.
Now, how many days did you fish it before I got there?
4.
Okay. And zilch.
Skunk.
Yep. But we got the skunk. You were in my boat. We put in, I think, within the first hour, maybe a couple hours, because I started getting hits right off the bat. But I'm familiar with that fishery, and I'm like, here's what you need to do. I gave you one of my spinner baits. The water's up. We were running the grass, the newly flooded grass edges. That river's about 18 inches high right now. And we got rain yesterday, but that's it. There was 6 days ahead of that with no rain, and the 6 days now following have no rain. So we're going to see it drop back down. But while that water was high, I did 3 trips there, and they were maybe 60 fish in 3 trips there. It's not a numbers river. That's why every fish is special. But I mean, once I gave you that spinnerbait, and you asked me, I remember distinctly, you turned to me. I think I landed my 3rd fish, and you turned to me and said, "What am I doing wrong?" And I said, you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Nothing. You're not doing anything wrong. You're throwing in all the right places. You're running it parallel. You're doing the exact same thing I'm doing.
Right.
You're not doing anything wrong. Just give it time." And I think it was maybe 5 minutes later, you caught a nice largemouth, and that was it for the skunk. Somebody asked me on my Instagram, I did a post on our trip there, and he said, "Who caught more fish?" I said, that is not a fair question.
No, when I wrote, "Who do you think?" When I wrote back to him, I said, "Who do you think?"
Oh, you saw that?
I responded to it.
Oh, that's right.
You didn't see my response? Right. I gave myself away. Those of you who read that, those of you who read that, you can see who I am.
How can I forget that? So this guy asked me who caught more fish. And I said, that's not a fair question because we didn't fish the same amount of time. We launched together at the launch, but you had to be out of there. You were done before 10 o'clock. I think it was like 9:40 and I was headed back to the launch, dropped you off.
It was after 10 when we went back. Yeah, because I had to get here by 11.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, I fished until 2 o'clock, So that wasn't a level playing field. I fished twice as long as you did. So
What did you put up for numbers?
I ended up with, I believe, 12 that day.
And did you
Got a
catch
dozen.
anything bigger than that giant one that you caught?
No, that was the biggest one. Thank goodness you were there to take the picture. That was a bigger than I've caught up in the lake there
For a split second, I had
for
biggest
this
fish.
for this year.
I had biggest fish for the
Yeah.
morning for about
Yep.
30 minutes.
Yeah. Then I ruined that.
Well, you know what blew my mind about that fish with you
What's that?
was you caught that on the simplest. Like, I think about all the money I've dumped into fishing lures and equipment in the last couple months, right? And you caught that on, what'd you get, on an 1/8 ounce or a 1/4 ounce bald head?
A 1/4 ounce black ball head jig with a June bug, Zoom Fat Albert grub on it. That's one of my little quiet secret goes to, because that's what it does. It catches those fish, and nobody throws a grub anymore. So that's one of my little tucked away
I'm sitting there like,
secret weapons.
I'm
I
like,
use grubs in tournaments.
I'm thinking of all the scientific stuff I had in that box. And you walked out there and you caught that thing of what, 25 feet of water
Yeah.
ish around that corner, which also blew my mind. I'm sitting there going, man, if a cow fell off of that edge of that pasture, it'd be a goner. It'd be in the bottom of the river.
That bank drops straight down.
Or a person for that matter. And it's all turbid water, so you have no idea what you're getting into off of the edge.
Yeah, no, you don't. No, you don't.
Like, holy cow. You taught me a lot that day. You are constantly teaching me a lot, which brings us to your amazingly topical and timing wise perfect topic for today.
Yeah. I wanted to do a podcast. I got this suggestion from a brother, a good buddy of mine. He listens to the podcast. His name is Matt Edmister. So I want to give a shout out to Matt for planting this seed. And as you said, the timing is perfect, because I want to talk about buying a used boat, something that a lot of the listeners may be interested in doing, or it's certainly, my stories are certainly relatable, because I've owned 18 different boats, 14 different outboards. I've got a lot of experience. I know what to look for, and you can still end up getting stuck with something because the seller was not honest. And the mistake I make a lot of the time is I genuinely think that people are honest. I know better than that. I know a lot of people are out there to get you to dump their problems on you. And I tend to think that people are going to treat me the same way I treat them. Similar to, if someone doesn't trust anybody, there's a reason for that. That's usually a person who's trying to screw over somebody else. So they naturally assume that's how everybody's treating them. I'm the opposite of that. I trust everybody until I learn the hard way not to. Because I'd rather, I know I get burnt doing that, but that's just the way I am. I don't want to go around mistrusting everybody. I don't want to live that way. Yeah, it can be naive, but that's my choice, and I'm aware of it. This is a good topic today because you're looking at a boat right now.
I've been looking at a few boats, but today's boat that I stumbled upon, that one I sent to you, and we both got excited about that.
Well, that's the first one I said, hey, this is a really good deal, for real.
Mm-hmm.
You should look into this. And it's perfect for the river that you're on. So
yeah, because it's, as you said, it's not too much boat. I kept on thinking about your bass tracker. It's the same size as yours, right? That's the same thing you got.
The one I have is Pro Team 175. It's a 17 and a half foot, 17-foot bass boat. The one you're looking at is a Pro 16.
It's
Also
shorter.
A bass tracker.
Foot shorter.
And it has a Mercury outboard, so 4-stroke. And yours is that one's a 30. The one on my 17 is happens to be a 40, but you saw how good it ran. Put in a good plug here for Mercury outboards, because I will run nothing else. I've run everything. I've had Johnsons, Evinrudes, Mercuries. My preference is I've run nothing but Mercury for the last 25 years. And there's a reason for that. I call my big outboard Mercules. And when you get in my nitro, you'll understand why. But I've got a couple horror stories, and I've had 18 different boats, probably more than I've had vehicles. All right. In 18 boats, I believe there's only 4 that I bought brand new. I mean, if you look at the cost of a new fiberglass rig that you're going to compete out of, you can spend upwards 80, 100, 120 grand, depending on how you want to rig it with electronics and power poles and all the gadgets. That, again, I'm a local and regional guy. So I run a moderate boat and it gets the job done. The one I'm running right now is 10 years old and I bought it used, but I've had to put a lot of work into it, and I'll get into that. Most of the boats I bought have worked out incredibly well, save for the last 2. And not the current boat I have now, but the one prior. It was a 2007. Prior to that, I was running a 1995 Nitro 190 TF with a 150 Merc Black Max on it. I ran that boat about 15 years. When I bought it, it was 4 years old. I ran it about 15 years and it was flawless. I tell you what, for an older boat, well, again, it was only 4 years old when I bought it. It's what all the pros were running at that time. It was a 19-foot Nitro, not as wide as they are nowadays, and it had a 150 Merc Black Max on it. We GPSed that boat. We GPSed it doing 68 miles an hour on Saratoga Lake, and I did not have the throttle bottomed out. That boat would haul. But after 15 years, there was a lot of wear, and I sold that. I wanted to upgrade to a more current model, and I bought another 19-foot Nitro with a 150. It was a 2007, so when I bought that one, uh, it was not that old, but I bought it from the second owner. This was a young guy. He was 25 years old, 24, 25 years old, and he had it listed for 14,000, which was a good price. I'd been cruising the used boat listings for a year.
And that was back when they were that's back when they were in print. Right?
Yeah. I was cruising Craigslist in the general area, within 2, 3, 4 hours, and just looking for something that was a real good deal. I had planned on selling my boat and replacing it in one more year, but I found this boat and I went, that's going to be hard to beat that deal. It looked really clean. They advertised low hours, which was actually true. There was only 39 hours on the outboard. 39 hours. I called Mercury and the guy laughed at me. He said, brother, that's not even broke in yet. How much are you paying for that boat? I said, 14 grand. He said, that's what the outboard costs. It's not even broke in. Tell me you snapped that up. I said, I did. He said, boy, you got a deal there. Price wise, yes. The boat ran great. The kid I bought it from, he was, like I said, he was 24, 25 years old. I was like the 4th person to call on this boat. The other 3 people all said, I'll be there with the money, and just never showed up. They stood him up. And he said, look, I'll put gas in it. I'll meet you he gave me directions to a boat ramp that's like 15 minutes from his house on a lake in Massachusetts. He was from Massachusetts. I'm from New York. And I bought it in October. And mid-October is when I generally put up my competition boat for that. My tournaments are over. I usually park it. I'll run my tracker maybe 1 or 2 more weeks. And then we're into November and the cold weather. Everything is in the basement, wrapped and packed. And I'm using my smaller boats and smaller outboards to do my running when it's, sometimes 30 degrees in the morning, and I don't want to be driving home, trailering an outboard home and having water freeze in the lower unit. So I'm real careful about that. So when I bought this mid-October, my plan was to not register. I wasn't going to bring it home and register it and do all the paperwork for the rest of the year when I wasn't even going to use it. I figured I'd just do it in January and start the new year fresh. So I tried it out on the lake. It ran fast. It was a rocket. It was smooth. I brought it back, put it on the trailer, pulled it out, and said, "Yep, I want it. Now let's talk price." He's like, "Well, I want 14 grand. That's what I paid for it. I've only had it 3 months, but I can't afford to keep it." I said, "Have you made payments?" He said, "Yeah, I made 3 payments." I said, "So what do you owe on it?" He said, I owe 12.5. I said, "Do you want to sell it?" He said, "Yeah, I do. You're the first person who actually showed up." And I laid out 12,500 on the tailgate of this pickup. I said, "This will break you even. Do we have a deal?" He said, you got a deal. You got a deal."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and I've done this. So I know what I said. You have the title to the boat, the trailer, the registrations. I've got all that. I said, "I need to see it." He laid everything out. He said, "This is where you sign and all that." I said, "Yep, I'll get to that. Let's just write up a receipt." We did that. It was getting black. There was a storm brewing, blowing in. The windows kicking up. Skies were getting black. And I just wanted to get this thing home without getting soaked. So we finished up the paperwork really quick, shook hands. He hopped in his truck. I hopped in mine. I went to pull out of the parking lot. He pulls his pickup in front of mine, cuts me off, and gets out of the truck, runs over to my pickup. I rolled down the window. I said, "I'm trying to get out of here without getting caught in this storm." He said, "I just want to shake your hand again and thank you for being an honest person." He said, "This is the best selling experience I've ever had in my life." I said, "Good, I got to go." and I got home, backed it in my basement, made it home dry. There was nothing to clean. It was in pristine condition. It had hardly been used. The nightmare came in January when I went to the DMV to pay the sales tax, register, and transfer title, ownership, and all that stuff for the boat. I laid out all the paperwork at the counter, and I had all the paperwork filled out for the transfer. And the clerk's looking everything over, and she goes, "Uh-oh." I said, "What?" She goes, "Got a problem with the title." I said, "Yeah, there was a lien on it. That's been paid." And she said, "No, that's not the problem. The problem is the name on the title is not the name of the person you bought the boat from." So what are you talking about? Come to find out that this kid, he bought this boat. He used it for about 3 months, decided he could not afford it. And he had never gone and registered it or transferred ownership or anything. He borrowed enough money. He borrowed 14 grand to buy the boat, which is what he paid for it. And it was going to be another couple grand to pay the sales tax, transfer title. In Massachusetts, you have to register the title and the boat. You have to register them both, license the trailer, and pay the sales tax. So all in all, about 2 grand. And he didn't have the money. So he was a concrete guy, had his own business. Again, a young guy, 25, has his own business. He was industrious, I thought, having his own business at that age. So he just took a license plate off one of his work trailers and put it on a boat trailer to use it one of the few times he used it. And then he just too much money tied up. So I called him in January and I said, there's a problem with the title in that you didn't transfer the title or pay sales tax on your boat or anything. He goes, "No, I didn't have the money, but I gave you the title." I said, "Yeah, but it's got the name of the previous owner on it, not your name. That won't fly in New York State." And he said, "Okay, well, I'll make it right. I'll make it right." He said, "Can you mail me the title?" And I said, "Well, I don't want to take a chance on it getting lost in the mail. Let me meet you someplace." So we met halfway. I gave him the title. He said, "I will make this right. I will make this right." And he went his way. I went mine. It was maybe a month later. I still hadn't heard from him. I tried to call him and I get him on a cell phone. He's like, "Yeah, I'm having trouble getting the money for that. I'm having trouble getting the money for that. It might be easier if you send it back to the previous owner and just have him get a replacement title, because this guy, the guy I bought it from, had put his name on the back of the title when he bought it, but he never went in and did the transfer. So there was no place for me to sign it. So, and when we did the paperwork in such a hurry with that storm blowing in, and the paperwork in Massachusetts looks different than New York, I know what I need. I need a title. Bam, he slams it down. I need a registration. Bam, he pops it down. I knew I had all the paperwork. I should have looked at it closer. And that's on me. I mean, there was a storm brewing. I just wanted to get done and get out of there, but that's on me for not checking. I should have caught that. They certainly did at the DMV office. I get the title back from this guy. He meets me halfway again, hands me $100. He said, "This is for your gas and your trouble. I'm really sorry about this." I said, "No, this is a good way to get it fixed." I called the previous owner. He didn't have his contact information. So I actually went on the computer with the guy's name and address and actually got his phone number. And I called this guy. And the first thing he said is, "How did you get my number?" I said, I looked it up on a computer. He said, that's a big problem for me. He goes, "You got to understand, I have a crazy, I mean, lunatic ex-wife. And if you can find my number, she can find my number. I've got to fix that." I said, "Well, I just want you to fix this. I bought this boat from this kid you sold it to. He never registered it. I can't register it because you signed the title over to him. What I would like to do is mail the title back to you and have you go to your DMV and get a replacement title so that you can sign it over to me and I can put my information on the back of it." I said, "But I know it's going to cost you money to get a new title. I know it's going to time and money to go to your DMV. What I want you to do is go there, do all that, and then find out how much it's going to cost you to mail it to me, priority mail. Call me, give me that total. I'll throw in an extra $50 for your trouble. You wait till you get my check in the mail and then you send it to me. Are you good with that?" He's like, "Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that." Thank you. You're going to be my hero because I can't use this boat. He said, "Yeah, well, I'm a little ticked off about you being able to find my number. I got to fix that." I'm waiting to get the information from him. He said I can go there in a couple days. So I'm waiting to hear from him how much it's going to cost him to do all that so I can send him a check. And about a week later, I get an envelope in the mail from this guy. I'm like, he got a new title and he didn't call me? What a nice guy. I open it up. It's the original title that has the kid's information on it that I bought the boat from, and a note that says, "They asked me why I wanted a new title. Sorry, it freaked me out. I don't want any part of this. Good luck."
What?
So I go to call him back and I get, "The number you are trying to call has been disconnected.
He
There is
blocked
no
you.
information available."
He blocked
I'm
you.
like, "You got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me." So now I've got a lot of good friends that are state troopers. And I asked one of them, I said, "What's my recourse on this?" I called the guy I bought it from and he doesn't answer his cell phone. And now I got no way to get a hold of the previous owner. And this guy looks at me, he goes, "Please tell me you didn't pay cash for it." I said, "Of course I paid cash. Nobody'll take a check." He goes, "Well, my friend, I'm afraid you got a $14,000 paperweight sitting in your basement that you can't use." So I I finally, after months and months of trying, get this kid to answer his cell phone. Turns out, since I had bought the boat back in the previous October, and now we're into like March, April, his wife divorced him. He wasn't paying child support, so she took him to court and they foreclosed. He lost his house, he lost his truck, he lost everything he was making payments on. And I said, "Please tell me that you paid off the boat." He said, "Oh, I did that the next day." Because if he hadn't done that, they would have been looking for this boat and confiscated that because he would have still owed money on it.
Sure.
So that was the saving grace there. But he said, I said, so I need you to make good on this. He said, believe me, I'm going to make good. I give you my word. I'm going to make good on this." He said, he had lost his house. He lost his
Right.
vehicle, so he couldn't carry out his business. So he got a job pouring concrete for windmills, for some windmill company somewhere. And he was traveling all over the US, 3 weeks at a clip, pouring concrete bases for these windmills. And then he'd be home for a couple weeks. And he was taking a bus everywhere. It's the only way he could work and make money. So he was constantly out of town. He's like, it's going to take me a while to get the money, but I give you my word, I will make right on this. I will make this good. And then he fell off the face of the planet. I could never get an answer on his cell phone. He just vanished. I left him message after message after message. And finally, I just got to the point where I said, it had been a year. I've got this boat in my basement I can't use. Now, again, I'm fishing tournaments out of that little 17-foot tracker while everybody else is running fiberglass rigs and getting there twice as fast as me. I've always said it's not the boat that catches the fish, it's the guy with his foot on the trolling motor. And we did good enough in tournaments. We cashed, we placed. I've got a nitro I can't use, and that's killing me. So I reached out to Massachusetts law enforcement and explained my case, and they said, all right, we'll refer this to the detective unit and they'll get in touch with you. And it was like the next day. I get a call from a detective, Sergeant Bellotta. I will never forget this guy's name because he said, tell me what's going on. I gave him the whole story. He said, all right, here's what I want you to do. I want you to write down everything you just told me. I gave him the whole timeline. When I called the guy, when I messaged the guy, I gave him the whole timeline, like 8 pages worth. And he said, I want a photocopy of every piece of paper you've got from that transaction. And I mean everything. He said, because more often than not, the littlest, most insignificant piece of paper that you've got happens to be the key piece that I need. So I want everything. And I priority mailed it to him. It's like, I don't know, like 18 pieces of paper in this envelope. And he called me back once he received it. And he said, just to confirm that he had gotten it. And he said, I will get to work. He said, I have a court appearance tomorrow. And the next day is Thursday. I will go to work on this Thursday and I will find this guy. I said, well, he's fallen off the face of the earth. He goes, oh, I'll find him. It's what I do. And he did. He found the kid in like 24 hours. But he said, I will find him and I will get his side of the story. And here we go again with the way my mind works. I know I'm telling the truth, but this detective doesn't. Yes, there's 2 sides to every story. And I could be a guy trying to scam the guy who sold the boat. I could have an axe to grind. So he's got to get the other side of the story. And I respect that. I said, I understand. I said, well, I'm telling the truth. He said, well, I will determine that. I said, okay. And it was, he went to work on Thursday. He found the kid on Friday. Saturday, I had a bass tournament. And when I have a tournament, I do not carry my cell phone. I leave it in my truck. We got a rule against using cell phones. I keep it in my truck. When I got back to my truck that day, I had 8 voice messages from this kid. You could hear the panic in his voice, and he was like, I'm going to make good on this. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to fix this. Don't worry. I'm going to get it done. And you're going to be able to use the boat. I give you my word. I'm going to make this happen. And he did. Apparently, when you sell something that you don't legally own in the state of Massachusetts, and the figure is over 10 grand, there's a little thing involved called jail time if you don't fix it. So this kid borrowed 2 grand. He had to borrow that 2 grand from the last friend he had on the face of the earth, because whoever that guy was, he had to already know he'd probably never see that 2 grand again. But anyway, we're talking like a year and 8 months since I had first purchased that boat, that it's been sitting dormant in my basement. And he said, I've got all the paperwork. I have to come to Albany for a court appearance. I don't know why he had to come to Albany, because he's from Massachusetts, but it was a family court matter. He said, I will meet you before my court appearance in Albany. I said, yeah, that's only an hour for me. He said, great. I've got all the paperwork in hand. I met him. He handed me all the paperwork. I thoroughly checked it all, and I shook his hand, and he said, I'm sorry about all this. I said, so, listen, I said, I've had that boat in my basement for 20 months, unable to do anything but look at it. And he's like, yeah, I'm real sorry about that. I said, do you remember what you told me the day I bought the boat? He said, no. I said, you told me it was the best selling experience you'd ever had in your life. Do you remember that now? He goes, yeah. I said, all right, now I've got something I want to say to you. And he just started staring at his shoes. And I said, this, without exception, has been the single worst purchasing experience of my entire life, bar none. And if I never see you again in this lifetime, it will be too soon. But then I shook his hand and I said, good luck with your life. I hope you get things straightened out. And I got in my truck and I drove home with the paperwork. And I got it all registered, and I ran that boat 4 or 5 years, and it ran like a top. But this is not in any way meant to discourage people who are looking for a used boat. There's a lot of great deals out there. I've had 2 nightmares, and I just thought it would be interesting to share them. The current boat I have now, the whole nightmare there was, and I'll be brief on this one. I gave a lot of detail on the first one. The second one is the current nitro I have now. With the first one, the kid was inexperienced. Second one, this guy was a shyster. He told me what I wanted to hear, and he was not honest with me. I've had to put 10 grand into the boat since I bought it, and I just had to do an engine repair to the tune of $3,541.47. And because he told me it's got low hours. 39 hours is low hours. All right. 398 hours is not low hours. This guy lied to me about everything to sell the boat. So my advice to people is, and I'm still working on getting this boat to where I want it, but I like the boat, and it runs good, and it cuts water like butter. If you're looking for a used boat, do what I did with the tracker I currently have. That was the deal of the century. It was at a car dealership. They had taken it in trade. They had no idea what it was valued at. The year I bought that boat, if you bought it at Bass Pro Shops, set up the way it was 17 grand out the door. That's what it was. That's what it listed for. Out the door, it was probably 19.5, and I got it for 4 grand because they didn't have a clue what they had. They took the guy for a ride. They only had 2 grand in it, so they doubled their money. But I picked up a boat that would be 19.5 out the door for 4 grand, and it was immaculate. When I looked at it, it was dirty, it was filthy, it was in the fall. It was early November when I bought it. They had it out by the road. It was full of leaves, road grime. But if you run boats, you know where to look for signs of wear. So here's what I did. I looked at this boat, and all the leaves and stuff that were in it, they can be cleaned out. They can be vacuumed out. Carpet was dirty. That can be cleaned. There was no tears in the carpet. There were no tears in the seat. It showed very little wear. Wear on the seats and carpet just tells you that the boat has had a tremendous amount of use. You want to look at the hull. Make sure there's no dings, dents, cracks, particularly on the outboard. You want to look at the skeg that hangs down off the bottom of the outboard to make sure it's not bent, mangled, all the paint chipped off it. You want to look for dings in the prop. That means they've had it in rocks. They didn't know what they were doing. They got too shallow. If you've got a ding in your prop, it's going to create vibration, which can lead to blown seals and all kinds of motor problems. So when I looked at this tracker, I mean, aside from being pretty dirty from being outside, the tires look brand new. The trailer had no marks on it. The only thing I saw was there was a little ding in the skeg, and one of the blades of the outboard prop had a small ding in it, which means this guy hit rocks once, probably his first boat. Everything else would just clean up. It was just cosmetic. It was no rips or tears, no excessive wear. The hull was clean, and just one little small ding in the prop. I bought a new prop on Craigslist, the exact size I needed, brand new in the box, unused for $50. And I tapped out that ding in the other one. That's my spare prop. So that's what you want to look for when you're buying a used boat. Beware of deals that are just too good to be true, because that's usually what they are. But my own deal notwithstanding, I've always called it the deal of the century, because I got a boat for 1/5 of what it should have costed. But the circumstance was they took it in trade and took that guy for a ride and just wanted to recoup their money, or they were going to have to pay storage for it for the winter because they had no place to keep it. They wanted to unload it bad, and they did. And I was the recipient of that good fortune. They took it in to their shop and had a guy detail it before I picked it up. It was showroom. It was mint. And JD, that's the boat we used when we fished your river that you live on now. That boat is it's a 2007. So it's 17 years old. Did that look like a 17-year-old boat?
No.
No.
Not at all. And the one that I'm looking at is a 2009 with with 100 hours on the motor.
Yeah.
And a ton of upgrades.
That's low hours for a boat of that age.
So that boat, what do you think that was going off the lot for? The one we're looking at today, what was that one going off the lot for in 2009?
In 2009, that one was probably around 14 to 15, but probably listed for around 14. And out the door, it was probably real close to 16 with dealer prep, destination charges, tax. They register and license it and all that for you. So you're probably looking at real close to 16,000 out the door. So
you can knock 10,000 off of that price. This is what I'm targeting to get the boat for.
Yep. And we'll look at it. We'll see, because the pictures they said were before the upgrades, and the upgrades were they've replaced a lot of the items that wore out. And that's another thing for the listeners. If you've the boat he's looking at, they replaced a lot of items that got that new seats, which means they used it quite a bit. But they upgraded the seats, they replaced electronics, they replaced trailer lights, trailer tires, everything that wore out, they kept the boat up. They wanted to keep it in good condition. Plus, they have all the stuff that was removed and upgraded. They still have all that, and they're selling that with it. So
here's a question about boats in general and trailers.
All right.
Okay, now the big thing is to make sure you have LED lights in your trailer lights, which I understand.
Yes.
Wouldn't all the trailer lights have gone into the water if you're backing a trailer with a boat on it down a ramp into the water? Wasn't that just like a given? They're going to go underwater when they go in there?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they do. Years ago, back when I first started trailering boats, one of my protocols was to, when I got to the ramp and I prepped my boat, took off the transom straps, took off the transom saver, and got the trolling motor ready to drop in, and unhooked the winch strap and all that. So when I backed in, the boat would glide off the trailer. I used to unplug my trailer lead from the pickup.
So that would keep it from blowing out when you were in there.
So I didn't have hot light, the hot bulbs going into cold water, because it'd zap them, they'd shatter, or they just stop working.
Yeah.
So, but I haven't done that for years. You saw when I backed in, my lights were on. Now I just leave them hooked up.
Because that was my other concern, was the fact that I drive a Hyundai, and I'm low to the ground, and my muffler goes underwater very quickly because it's a Tucson, because it's a small SUV. So that's my other concern about if I do pull a trigger on a boat.
Most boat ramps, if they have the right grade to them, you don't have your vehicle in the water. The only time you're going to have a vehicle in the water is if there's not enough pitch to the ramp.
I think that's what happened. That's what happened to me up in Thousand Islands.
Oh, okay.
So then I just unhooked the trailer and thought I could walk it down the ramp.
Right, because that's a kayak trailer.
Yeah, but
he's not doing this with a boat trailer, folks.
Right, I would never try that.
For his kayak.
Right, I would never do it with a boat on it. It didn't matter. It still took me for a ride, and I slid all the way down that ramp like a water ski on the cement. I didn't fall. I got it to stop, but
good thing you'd be on boat ramp fails on YouTube.
Have you seen these guys that go around? They bring a whole crowd out there and they cheer people on.
One of my favorite things to do is watch boat fails on YouTube and go, look at the. Are you kidding me? Yeah, it's crazy. It's a hoot to watch those, but some of them hurt to watch.
Yes, they do. All right. So that does it for. So you want to buy a used boat?
Buyer beware. But there are a lot of good deals out there, and there's also people who are trying to unload their problems on you. So,
well, plus you're having an issue right now with your motor.
Right. It should be straightened out now. But again, this guy was trying to unload problems. He was never honest with me. I have learned over the last couple of years he lied to me about everything. I did get it really cheap because he had to sell it. And the problem was I wanted to upgrade to a 20-foot with a 200 horse. I had it picked out. My problem is I always bought my next boat without selling my current one. I always drained my savings, paid cash, and now I got to sell a boat to build my savings back up. And this guy, he was looking to upgrade to a newer used boat. He still wanted a 20-foot with a 200. He just wanted a newer one. He wanted the Z20. This was a Z8, if you're familiar with nitros at all. He had a boat fund he had built up, and he said, I sell this one, I'll have enough to pay cash for everything. And I said, well, I want to sell the one I have first before I buy this one. I want to do that for once. He said, no problem. It's in my garage. I'll sell it to you, but I'm going to use it until you do. I said, no, that's your boat, your rig. I'm good with that. So he agreed to hold it for me. The day I sold my nitro, I stood in my driveway and watched it go down the road. And once it went out of sight, I called that guy on my cell phone. I said, hey, I just sold my boat. I'm ready to come and pick up the Z8. Can I do that this weekend? And he goes, yeah, about that. He said, I had a problem with my furnace. Had a guy come and look at it, and he said, unfortunately, I had to replace my entire heating system for my whole house. So I kind of burn up my boat fund so I wouldn't go into debt. So I'm going to keep the boat. So there I am. Now, for the first time ever, I have no boat to do tournaments with. Actually, that was the second time because I had been using my tracker before when the other boat was in limbo because I couldn't get it registered in my name. Now I'm in the same situation where I just watched my nitro go down the road. The one that was held for me is not for sale anymore. So I went back to Craigslist, and all the 20-footers and 21s that were for sale were not anymore. The only thing I could find was a Z7 way up in Vermont, 4 hours. And I bought it because it was the only thing available. And like I said, I put an extra 10 grand into it to get it the way I wanted it. But I really, really have adjusted to it, and I like it. I like the way it runs, and we've got things straightened out now. It just, like I say, nothing a pile of money can't fix. So don't be afraid of buying a used boat. I've got some tremendous deals. You don't always win, but I always come out where I can use it. And the cost of new ones are so expensive. I just justify the cost of a brand new one, but who knows? Maybe someday I'll fall into a pile of money. Who knows?
You never know. And
never know. Dare to dream.
You should fall into Roy's DMs on his Instagram at all lowercase Roy Bilby. I'm sure he'd appreciate that. And make sure you give us a subscribe and a rating if you could. That'd be wonderful. And tell a friend. Here's a list of things to do for us.
Yep. Here's the list of things you can do for us. We appreciate everybody that listens. If there's anybody out there looking for a boat, I hope this didn't scare you. There are some really good deals out there. Just know what to look for and try to read the person who's selling you the boat. Make sure they make eye contact and just take a really, really good look and ask yourself, is this the boat I want for this price? And yeah, there it is. As always, we're here to do our best to help you plug into your angler within.